forum. And I kind of wanted to take the agenda slightly out of order, if that's okay. We have a discussion here about the meters, and it's Mueller meters, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th item on the list. And we have Louis Schoolcraft, who's from Neptune, and Rebecca's done really a pretty nice job of putting together a PowerPoint that looks at pulling all the information that we had gathered between our meeting last week and then yesterday with Louis to kind of look at this whole meter question in general. And one of the big ahas for me during the course of the discussion was there's obviously the meters are different. They cost different depending on which meter we actually use. But probably the bigger issue is what the radio component is. And that's what interfaces with the software. That's how we get our readings. So there's actually two components. It's the meter and the radio. They're separate, and to some extent they're a little bit interchangeable. But I'll start with that. We did do a lot of work, and maybe I think the best thing would be, Rebecca, maybe you could just share your screen and we can take a look at those slides. And Louis, if there's something that isn't exactly right, or Eric, feel free to chime in. But Eric, do you want to kind of maybe lead the charge here and kind of go through, since obviously Louis wasn't on the Neptune or on the Mueller call, but just kind of go through what Mueller was talking through with us.
Sure. Again, essentially with the Mueller meters, the challenge that we're facing is that the hot rod system is obsolete, and for a period of time they'll support the hot rod is the radio component to Mueller's meter, and for a period of time they will support it from warranty until they run out, and then we would have to buy the new radio components. And the current reading equipment that we have, it will read the older meter radios, but it will not read the new ones. And any new meters we buy, and when we get the radio components with those meters, the old equipment will not read that. So it's obsolete. So we're really in a position in town where we're out of meters. We have to either purchase new Mueller meters with the new radio, which we would not be able to read with our current hardware, and or upgrade to new reading hardware and software from Mueller. The one good thing about that is it can read the new meters and it will read the old meters and radios, but there's still a financial investment there. There's still the quirks and challenges that go along with converting the data back and forth between the few different files and getting that to and through Penachuk. And there's still a slight question on with the new software and some of the other pieces, whether we would have to invest additional monies with Penachuk Water. We already had to invest in them to basically come up with a bridge for converting information. So that was where we ultimately got to with Mueller. They're providing some additional information for us, which is good, but we have the pricing to upgrade the reading software and hardware that we need to read the new and old meters. I think we have pricing from them on what their meters cost. And to take a step back from this, when all this happened with Mueller, when Russell Tierney was still here, he looked into it. He was trying to look out for the best interests of the town near and short term, and had reached out to Neptune in working with Eastham, using Neptune meters there. The relationship he had, what he knew of the product at the time, had advised that maybe the Neptune route may be the better route to go to kind of retrofit throughout the town. And so he put some supporting budgetary pricing together for the board to retrofit essentially all the meters in town, all of the radio hardware and everything else, under the assumption that we would also be able to, at least for a period of time, use Eastham's reading equipment for collecting all the data from the meters. And then Whitewater would basically go through and replace all of the meters in town over a period of time. We would probably find a period of time where we were using both systems, which would be the same in this case, even if we do ultimately convert over to Neptune. But that was where we're at. And just when we had the changes here organizationally at Whitewater, I was looking at the different options, and I just thought it was prudent to take a pause and make sure the board truly understand what the options are, what were on the table, so that the best decision could be made with, you know, the short-term need, but the longer-term look at things. And you know, again, what Mueller had put together and discussed with us was good, and it's an option. And then what Louis was able to put together and really build on for us and give us a better understanding of what Russell had previously proposed. And there's a lot of significant benefits to going the Neptune route, whether starting at kind of the top or the end of the cycle is processing that stuff with Penachuk. They're used to working with the system. There's an incredible amount of support that goes with the product. The technology, the interface, the software is, Louis, don't take this personally, but it has a very nice, a pleasant Crayola feel to it, in that it's very easy and intuitive to utilize, which just makes it good for a broad service base. But even as easy as, and like I said, as Crayola in some ways, it gives you an abundance of information for whether it be the service provider like Whitewater to diagnose issues in the field, but also members in the town and Penachuk, and to be able to pick up on things and provide you know, timely resolution to issues as well. Neptune has a really good history of supporting their products, and the fact that their radio system that they have now reads all the way back to their original installation that was done, you know, quite some time ago. And they continue to structure their product line in that manner going forward, so that everything backward and forward has capabilities. Also, their abilities to build into an AMI platform for being able to read without just the drive-by system looks a lot more palatable as well. With either system, I think an effort to move the radio hardware that may be located in basements and things like that to the outside of the homes makes sense, regardless of which option the board decides to go. But what we essentially have on the table, and what Rebecca's slides kind of outline, is here's a Mueller option with what we have in town, knowing that we have some costs that we would have to upgrade in the near term to be able to efficiently read and communicate information. And there's a Neptune option here, potentially a little bit more work, but not really. And with it, that offers what would appear to be a better long-term approach for the town. So I don't know, Kurt, if I summarize that appropriately, Rebecca, if I summarize that based on our previous conversations.
Yeah, Louis, if you can just answer, I had a couple other questions. One was, we had talked with Mueller about the prospect of, you know, going to a dedicated system. So basically, you'd be able to have all the meters, and effectively, it's the radios that are then real time, so that you can actually get real time information from the system, which would help and could help both with leak detection and also generating bills more frequently than, you know, twice a year. It would avoid, you know, for example, driving around to do the reads. They'd actually be on the network. How does your system work? The Mueller system, basically what was discussed was a dedicated radio system, which would mean installing a lot of hardware, fairly expensive to do it, you know, to do a dedicated radio network. Are you using cellular or Wi-Fi, or do you do the same thing?
So we do the same thing. I got a little feedback now. There we go. So we do the same thing, in that it's a dedicated network that we would put together for you. The R900s that we're talking about, and we discussed with Rebecca and yourself and Eric yesterday, are good for both mobile and for fixed network with the Neptune system. And there's no mode changes. And what that means is our system, where it doesn't care what's reading it. So we can read it with a walk-by device or a mobile drive-by device or a fixed network collector without ever having to revisit that endpoint. And those different readings options are always available. When it comes to going into a fixed network, which is what you're talking about, where then you get these demand reads and you get the hourly consumption all the time, we do a quick little propagation study and determine where we're going to put those collectors up. The collectors are relatively inexpensive in the grand scheme of things. You're looking at anywhere between $20,000 to $25,000 installed, all the cabling, antenna, all in for collectors. And for the 300 meters that you folks have, I'm not sure what that land mass would be, but I can't imagine it would be much of an investment in the grand scheme of things there. We do have a cellular MIU, Kurt. We do not believe that it is a full system deployment technology. And the reason that we don't believe that is because cellular has already gone through the 2G evolution and those towers came down and 2G devices don't work anymore. 3G was the next one and we've had competitors sell those cellular devices. 3G is coming down in 2021. So though, AT&T and Verizon already announced that. So those devices won't communicate with the network. When you go with a radio system like what Neptune has on the 900 megahertz, it's dedicated for the next 20 years, and we know that technology is not going to change. We're only going to enhance the capabilities, like Eric had said. So with a cellular technology, you can't really have the forward and backward compatibility when the network or the carriers change to 4G, 5G, and now Apple, I heard, just joined 6G, that those technologies don't overlap. But when you have a system like this, we've been sending the same transmission since 1998. All we do is we add technology to it, like Eric had said, the forward backward compatibility. So what you're going through right now won't happen with Neptune. And we have a history and a track record of that, so that we won't have that the radio, like the hot rod you have now, that isn't compatible moving forward and you need to change your reading equipment or software and devices. Neptune doesn't believe in that. So you can migrate to getting back to the fixed network at your own pace whenever you would like. So you can start with a walk-by system now or a drive-by system. And in a couple of years down the road, you say, you know what, we want a fixed network. Then we install a couple of gateways and upgrade your software and the readings start coming in.
You're muted, Kurt, just so we could stop the feedback.
Am I live again?
Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. It did. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
welcome.
I guess what we should do is just open it up to the board. It's pretty complex in terms of the information that's being presented. So I, want to give everybody an opportunity to kind of ask their questions and, follow what people are interested in hearing about.
Sure, I'm here. You can ask me any question you'd like.
You just have to unmute yourselves.
Yep.
So I didn't get to go look at the Neptune meters today, but the DPW is going to take me through, and we did water reads today. But I would like to, if and when or who we decide to go with, I would really like to go and see how an outside the reader is attached to the building. I would love to see how that works. And obviously we have a few properties that have pits. So will all the meter, I guess I'm wondering, like, will the meters just go in the same place that they are now, just being replaced out, but all the readers will be on the side of a house?
Yes, that
Okay.
would be ideal.
Okay.
And I know that was mentioned earlier by Eric and for the other board members that weren't able to make the call yesterday. The reason that it's really important, and we stress to all of our utilities, that you put the radio, the transmitter on the outside of the home is for propagation. And propagation is that transmitting of the signal. Any sort of RF transmission, if it has to go through something with a basement or a boiler or the dirt in the car in the bushes, that signal transmission, the length, it shortens down. So it's not as strong because it has to go through things. So if you put that on the outside of the house, that's going to give you the best the most, losing my word right now, but efficient, the most efficient meter reading that you possibly can have if those are on the outside of the home. And on top of that, it's important, you know, to note that these are man-made devices. I stress this to all of our utilities as well. They're man-made electronic devices. So there will be some that don't work right. That's inevitable, right? You know, our goal is we always want to be less than 1%, and that's where we live. We live in a less than 1% failure rate. But if those have an issue on the outside of the home, you can replace that without having to get an appointment going into the basement. If they're on the inside of the home, then you have to make an appointment to do it. So for both maintaining the system, but really for the propagation, so that signal can get out, you have the strongest signal and you can read most efficiently.
And so for the, you know, for the benefit of the rest of the board members, we're kind of at we're at a crossroads because we don't have any more meters. Also with the expansion of the system up Briar Lane, we're going to need additional meters. So we're, you know, we don't know what that number is going to look like, but assume something like, you know, maybe 30 additional meters just to accommodate the Briar Lane expansion. So we're rapidly at a point here where we do have to make some kind of decision about both meters going forward and then also the readers. The interesting thing that Louis had mentioned on our call yesterday was that the R900 radio will read either a Mueller meter or an Neptune meter. So for example, we could be replacing radios throughout the entire system and ultimately getting to a point where we've got you know, better software that Rebecca would be able to access on her own, you know, from her office rather than currently having to call and get a file shipped to her in order to respond to a customer request. So, you know, that would be a big change. And also as I understand it, the Neptune software, you know, right now it's completely compatible with the Penachuk system. There's less steps in converting the meter reads into a file, into the, you know, so that we can get access to it from the Penachuk system. So there's some other back end issues that are really affecting Rebecca in terms of the number of steps she's got to go through, take reads, and then actually get it into the Penachuk billing system. So to me, those were at least some of the advantages that were, you know, that kind of came up in the calls. You know, in terms of the actual meters, again, we can continue to use our Mueller meters, and we could continue to run a mixed system, you know, of Mueller with our current, you know, the current radios that are existing there, and either stay with Mueller going forward or look at adding Neptune meters as we expand and as we need to do replacements. So I see we kind of have, you know, I guess 2 or 3 different choices. Both systems do have the ability to ultimately get to a real-time structure. You know, but again, you know, within the next couple of months, we've got to make a decision on what we're going to do as far as meters where we have to replace them and have to, you know, add meters. We just literally don't have any inventory right now.
I will tell you the one thing that stood out to me the most is the mere fact that Neptune has a service center. So when I have trouble with the Mueller meters, it takes me a long time to get through to a support staff over there. And then we go back and forth because I will tell you what happened with the last meter reads is that one Mueller staff didn't know how to do it. So they had to get me to another person who thought they knew how to do it. But what I was asking for, they weren't sure how it was happening. The presentation that I was showing yesterday, I can pretty much just go in, click on 4 different buttons, and everybody has everything that they need in order to generate a bill. So for me, that was a huge selling point, only because now that I have the water reads, I remember how to do it, but I'm probably going to need support staff, and that's going to take a few days to get them on the line with me to help me out, where Louis said that I could just text someone and be like, then they'd help me the whole way through, no matter, you know, anytime during the day that they're open, I have support staff, which is huge. And it goes along with Neptune. We don't have to pay a service fee for that, which is super appreciative. As me is just trying to generate bills.
Yeah, that is that's something that's a big differentiator with Thai Sales is we have here at Thai Sales we have 3 dedicated system support personnel, and we don't charge for that for the life of the system. So
and they all know how to run it. Oh,
yeah,
right.
we do.
Okay, good.
Yes, we do.
That's a
They all
bonus.
overlap. They all overlap, and they all work together. So that is something that we believe that we describe the system a certain way and the way it's going to work, and we believe that it's our responsibility to make sure that system is always working in that manner. So we don't charge for support. We don't charge for retraining. We don't charge for any of that stuff. And we also have a loaner pool for reading devices that we have here in Sudbury, Massachusetts. That is a no charge next day loaner program. So if something happened to your mobile reading device, or if something happened to your belt clip transceiver, you just call us up and we ship you one that day. You get it the next morning, and there's no charge for that. So we know that when you call us, you need us. That otherwise you wouldn't call us. That's the truth. So,
Well,
and
there
we
seems
understand
to
that.
be very obvious benefits here.
Louis, one other point, could you speak to the inventory? And you don't have to go into really fine details, but that's an important component for really this community and any community, but the effort that you guys make from an inventory standpoint.
Oh, sure thing.
This was my favorite part too.
Yeah. So we're a level 1 distributor for Neptune, which means we have the exclusive rights in New England and upstate New York. With that comes the system support people. We have to have 1, we have 3. And we also believe in inventory. And so we have over $2 million of Neptune inventory on the ground here at Thai Sales. And I actually pulled up the numbers yesterday for our call. You have 300 meters roughly in your system you're looking for. We have 730 of them in stock on the ground right now in Sudbury, ready for next day delivery. And when it comes to our R900 transmitters, we have 1,500 of them on the ground here right now. So we believe in inventory, and we believe that when you need something, that's our responsibility to have it here. So we do everything in our power to do that. And we have I didn't mention this yesterday, but we have the full freight allowed. It's $1,000 for full freight allowed for any orders. And when you're in a metering system, you're going to hit that number pretty quick in most situations. So, and it's all shipped out. If we can pull the order by 4 o'clock that day, then you'll get your order the next morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I'm a fan.
Neil, did you have any
To
questions?
make a decision today, Kurt, is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think we need to make a decision today. My hope here was to at least start to look at I think it takes a while to it's going to take a while to wrap our brains around all the different elements of what we want to do going forward.
And I can send everybody both set, like I got a full breakdown from Neptune, and I got not just pricing, but kind of what they do and how they do it, and Mueller, and I can send it to you. It's a lot to read, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think people are going to need to take some time and kind of look over the components and think a little bit about what the advantages and disadvantages are, and other questions that you'll have, just to do your due diligence to feel comfortable about making some kind of decision. It is complicated. There's, I think to me, it kind of distills down to, do we want to run a mixed system, which we can do. We can just start, tomorrow we could start using the R900 and Neptune meters if they make more sense going forward, and continue to run the Mueller system just the way it is. If a Mueller meter breaks, we could replace it with a Neptune. We could replace it with a Neptune radio. I think so we can, for not much money at all, we can get by. The big advantage I see it right now is thinking about what the system should look like, 2, 3, 5 years from now, and what's our design goal, or what would we like to see? And, I think that's where the software and reading issues come into play, where from my standpoint, we got some numbers on the radios. It's about $100, a little over 100, 160 to replace a radio, you know, the cost of the radio. There's also some labor involved, but for somewhere around 30 or probably more like 40 or $50,000, we could replace all of the radios and go to a much better reading system, you know, with the R100s and the Neptune software. The other option would be to, you know, replace radios and meters. Meters are, you know, that's pretty expensive. Either way, you know, kind of long-term, whether we stick with Mueller or whether we go with Neptune, at some point in the not too distant future, next several years, we would have enough probably radios, new radios, get the radios all replaced so that we could go to a dedicated system if we wanted to. And there's no downside either way. I don't think that's a decision we need to make today. I think the immediate decision is, you know, do we want to just limp along with, you know, meters and radios? Do we want to change and use the Neptune system? Do we want to, you know, retrofit the radios and go to a new billing system, which Rebecca sees a lot of advantages in.
Now, you know, if we decide we want to do a change, who else has to approve it besides us? Does it have to go to the town meeting?
No, what we do is we would first have to make a recommendation as far as, you know, what we want to do technically going forward. The second part would be look at the cost. So if we need, you know, if it's $30,000 to $50,000, there's two ways to do that. One would be to have it financed potentially through either the vendor or through Whitewater. You know, they could do a subcontract so that we could finance it without having to go to town meeting, but just put it in as an increase in operating cost, you know, for the water system for a period of time. Or we could, you know, get authorization and go out and do a bid and purchase the equipment outright. So there's a couple of different ways that we could finance it, and I think, you know, as a board, we'll want to talk about that at some greater length.
Yeah, as we talk about it too, just I think what Rebecca has already given us as a foundation within the slides. I told her I'm going to be out of the office the rest of this week, but hopefully by the end of next week, potentially just kind of breaking down what the potential options are with some additional budgetary numbers, you know, thinking about the scenarios of, you know, going forward, Neptune meters, radios, for whatever is coming up, potentially the option to retrofit with all of the new radios on the Mueller meters. But you run into that scenario where you're going to be in the basement anyway, you're going to be doing the other work. Do you go ahead and address the meter at that time and just try to think the dollars and cents of then coming back later, going back into the basement, making all of those arrangements. You know, you got the radio in place, so you're getting the updated readings and all of the better data in a more efficient system, but you still got to go back in and then do all the meters again later on and the costs associated with it. So just trying to kind of lay it out and see what's going to be best for the town in the short and longer term.
Neil, did you have a question? He's muted, but I thought he was trying to unmute to ask.
I know,
something.
I thought the same thing. If you go down to the left-hand corner, Neil, you see a little microphone. If you hit it, it should unmute you. You're good. You should be unmuted now. You just have to talk. You're all unmuted. You're good. He doesn't want to talk to you.
You okay, Neil?
Earth to Neil, Earth to Neil.
Maybe he can't hear us. I don't know.
Something's gone wrong, yeah.
But I guess the next important piece here is just
Yeah.
if we have any more, not that Louis won't continue to answer any questions we have, because I'm sure he will, but, is there anything specific that we have directly related to the Neptune and tie sales option that Louis could ask while we got him? And then, we can kind of table some of the additional items potentially for some of the other agenda items if need be.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Eric. Well, thank you, Louis. It doesn't look like there are any questions at the moment, but I'm sure as we start to pour through the details, we'll have more questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on. I do want to reiterate too, I know you mentioned the Penachuk relationship. We have an excellent relationship with Tara King and
Yeah,
Penachuk. They're
she's
one of our,
amazing.
she's amazing. And they're one of our larger accounts that we have. We have a fantastic working relationship there. So you can kind of rest assured on that end. That end would be pretty well tied up with us. So, but thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Happy
Rebecca,
Thanksgiving.
you too. Right back at you. Rebecca, Kurt, and Eric have my email, so please feel free to reach out at any time.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Louis.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
So the next item on the agenda, going back to the top, was I'm kind of stealing Jim's thunder here, but I think everybody heard we did get the Mass Works Award for $2.5 million,
Yay, yeah.
which is just, Jim's done put a lot of hard work into that and done such a great job. And I think from the water system standpoint, it's also going to allow us a little bit more flexibility with some of these other capital items like the meter upgrades and radio upgrades to get the system to a point where it's working smoothly. I really don't see big challenges in getting financing, whether it's working through a subcontract with Whitewater or going to town meeting this April. I think we could probably figure out a stopgap solution in the meantime if we actually needed a meter. If we were going to, go whichever direction, no matter what direction we go, we're going to be able to find equipment to be able to get us through till town meeting. I think I don't see.
Yeah,
a
we've
problem.
actually borrowed a couple meters already from Eastham, Neptune meters from Eastham, just because we didn't go to Mueller because they didn't have them available to us, and Eastham let us just have a couple Neptune meters.
So the next item on the agenda is the revised agreement with Masonic Lane. I don't know if everybody had a chance to take a look at that or if anybody had any additional questions. I did look at the change language that does now require the abutters to abide by our system regulations, and makes it clear that they're going to be paying all the water system and service and system fees going forward. So I think it's much clearer. So thank you for doing that, Rebecca. I didn't really have myself any other comments. Does anybody else have any questions about that?
Not I.
If not, we could entertain a motion to go ahead and approve that so Jim could sign that.
So move.
All those in favor? Aye. Kateri,
Aye.
Neil,
Unmute Neil, come on.
Or if he just turns his camera on, he can wave, but I don't know that he knows. Hold on, let me see if I can unmute him. I don't have the ability like I do in the select board meetings. I don't have the power.
We need his vote, right?
yeah. He had his camera going.
There's also the chat option just down the bottom of the screen. If you move your cursor, you can do the chat and potentially type in if there's any other options there. So
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do right now.
Well, while we're waiting for Neil, Eric, if you wouldn't mind just giving us an update on the Scada system. I know the contract was signed, and what do you foresee as far as that, work process going forward?
I apologize. I was just looking through. I don't know if I got a copy of today's agenda, so I hadn't really prepared for that. John Aprea, our area manager, is definitely more boots on the ground because I've been involved in the meter piece here. I've kind of, that's pretty kind of been consumed most of my effort. So I would have to reach out to John. I apologize. I imagine him working with Butch, figuring out the different next steps with the PLC upgrades and whatever they're doing with that. But I'll have to circle back with you on that item.
Okay. The next
No,
item
I
is,
know that Jim said everything is signed, and as I told you earlier, Mike he sent me the contract for the SCADA system. All we need to know now is when they're going to start, because everything has been signed, all I's dotted, T's crossed. We're good to go. We just need to know when he's going to start.
I'm sending an email to John right now to reach out to Butch tomorrow and get us an update. I'm out of the office, but as soon as I get it, Rebecca, I'll forward the update over to you so everybody has it.
Awesome, thanks.
and also Eric, if you could just ask him when he thinks he might be able to complete the work too, just what he thinks the schedule looks like.
Sure.
The next item on the agenda is the environmental partners contract for the Briar Lane work. And Rebecca, my understanding is that town council has not yet reviewed that.
No, I know it's with town council right now, but no, they have not reviewed.
So that's kind of the status on that. The next item here is the Cape Light Compact. Coming to take a look.
Yes, I actually got in contact with them. They sent me through a couple chains of people, and they are going to give me a call after Thanksgiving, and they're going to come out and take a look at all the houses, the little well huts, and they're going to see what's the best option to preserve energy, whether it be insulation, whether it be, just tightening up things that have loose, because it's a couple of them, if I remember correctly, they're concrete, so they don't hold heat very well. So they said they'd be more than willing to come check it out right now at no cost. And then I'll let you know what they want to do with them to get them more energy efficient once we get through that.
Terrific. Neil, can you raise your hand if you were a yes on the contract signing so Jim can sign that contract for Masonic Lane? Or do we have audio?
I don't know if he can hear you.
He must not be able to.
He's trying to figure it out, but I don't know. Oh, there was his feet.
Hand, we said hand.
Well,
Worst
maybe
comes
we
to
can-
worst, I'll email him and just see if he heard it.
yeah. That'd be fine. Terrific. Well, the next thing here is the minutes, but we can't approve those if we can't get Neil to vote.
Oh, well.
Technology.
At least he gets to see us. That's fine. We can just move them until the next meeting.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? It looks like Neil's just having some problems. There's really nothing else to add to the agenda, and if we can't get Neil, we can't get these votes done. So I think what we'll do is just
Next meeting.
yeah.
Let me check when your next meeting is, or supposed to be. It looks like December 8th, or you
Yeah.
could do the 15th.
The
But
8th better.
Yeah, the 8th is better. I'm probably going to be gone the following week.
Okay. Perfect. And then you can approve all that. And I'll just email Neil to see if he heard anything. And if he didn't, you'll have to move the letter to Masonic Lane to the next one.
Yeah, that's too bad because I'm sure that they're anxious to get that signed. So
I
they
would
can get
imagine,
right on the
yeah.
work. Maybe, you know what I can do? Let me
Oh,
see if I
he's
can.
connecting to audio. Hold on. All right, so I have December 8th. We'll put that in there.
Yeah. I'm just gonna call him because
Oh,
I
that's a good idea.
have his phone number here, so let me just call him. I can put him on speaker so everybody else could hear it. Hi, Neil, you're having problems there, huh? No sound at all, okay. Huh. So it must be your speakers may be muted and huh. Well, what we were trying to do, what we actually really need you for is we had talked about the Masonic lane contract. And I don't know if you got a chance to look at that, the couple of language changes that Rebecca made to make sure that those folks who are signing the agreement understand that they're going to be bound by the terms of the water system.
I read the changes, and it looks very clear to me.
Okay, so if we're trying to get a vote on that so that they can start, Jim needs to sign that contract so they can start their work. And I'm sure they're anxious to get that going ASAP before they lose the weather window.
Oh, yeah.
So Katri had made a motion to approve that. Would you be willing to second that?
I would do that.
Okay, and then all those in favor, I'm an aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Terrific. So we were able to do that.
I'm watching you on my screen.
Well, everybody else.
The audio is on my landline.
Yeah, and everybody else can hear you because I've got you on speaker through back to everybody else. So we're connected.
I have no audio from my cell phone.
Okay. The other item that we were trying to vote on was the minutes. And I don't know if you got a chance to look at those, but they look fine to me. Katri?
Oh, fine, yes. Yeah, okay.
So can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, terrific. Geez, I'm sorry about that, Neil. If I had known, I would have hooked you up on this method sooner so that you could have had a chance to participate in the meter conversation. But what Rebecca's going to do is send out the comparisons between Mueller and Neptune so that we can start to refine that and start to look at what makes sense going forward. I think it's a little complicated because there's the radio, which is different for each vendor. There's a meter, which is different from each vendor. And then each vendor has different software. And it looks like we're going to be running some kind of a mixed system going forward, no matter what we do. So we kind of have to figure out which direction we want to head. The good thing about both meters is that at least with Neptune's radio, the Neptune radio will read either a Neptune meter or a Mueller meter. I don't know if the Mueller radio does read Neptune's or not. But,
oh, okay.
But so there is an advantage to the Neptune radios. And the other thing is that there's an advantage to the Neptune software because there's a lot less steps in taking a read and getting it into the billing system. So that would make Rebecca extremely happy. But
Now, a question, the changeover, can the meter itself, the electronics, be separated from the press turbine? So that, if we had to replace the whole meter.
meaning,
Well, there's a, meter is a plastic unit that reads the amount of water that you've used. And there's the electronic, but that's probably a third the cost of the whole thing. Do we have to replace the whole meter?
no, that's the beauty of it is actually you can just replace the radio, and the radios are about $100 each.
Oh, well,
Yeah, and with the Neptune radio, it can read a Mueller meter. So you can put a Neptune radio on a Mueller meter and have consistency in the billing process.
well, with that,
Okay, what we'll do is Rebecca's got a good start on this presentation, I think, so we can look at the numbers for both systems. And then with Jim involved next meeting, which Rebecca had tentatively set up for December 8th. We can have that back on the agenda to have a full discussion. I think we could probably get to a point of making a decision. Oh, okay. Right. Right. Well, we ought to.
If there's a breach in the concrete lining, that it could corrode. And also, if we had put the extension when we built on Taylor Hill, at the extension a few years ago, if we used PVC pipe, we wouldn't have to run water to waste during the off-season.
Right. Right. What I think, Neil, we should do is Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind, let's put on the next meeting agenda an item, to talk about that. We really, yeah, we can't really talk about it now since it's not on the agenda, but certainly add that as an agenda item for the next meeting. Terrific.
Now I just need to figure out why I can't receive the audio from the Zoom meeting.
I'll swing by tomorrow, Neil, and we'll take a look.
Swing by here.
Yeah, I'll come over. I'll swing by your house and we'll take a look.
I just cannot. I've done everything and I can't unmute the sound.
Okay, I'll come over and take a look. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Terrific. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Appreciate it,
everyone.
especially Neil with the technical glitch, and I'll swing by tomorrow and see if we can't figure that out.
All right.
Okay, look forward to seeing you. Wear your mask.
I
Take
will,
care.
I will. Thanks, Eric. Gail,
Bye. Have a good
Thank you very
Thanksgiving,
much.
everyone.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving from Gail.
You guys as well.
Have a good one.
It